Republic of the Philippines. Department of Education. May 28, 2020. DepEd Order No. 8, Series of 2020. Guidelines on enrollment for school year 2020 to 2021 in the context of the public health emergency due to COVID-19. To Undersecretaries, Assistant Secretaries, Minister, Basic, Higher, and Technical Education, Bureau, and Service Directors, Regional Directors, Schools Division Superintendents, Public, and Private School Heads, all others concerned. 1. Amid the public health emergency due to COVID-19, the Department of Education, DepEd, remains committed to find ways to provide learning opportunities to all Filipino learners for school year SY 2020 to 2021. In its Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan BELCP titled Learning Opportunities Shall Be Available, the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan in the time of COVID-19, DepEd announced a greater emphasis on multiple learning delivery modalities such as blended learning, distance learning, and homeschooling, on top or to replace face-to-face learning modality in order to reduce possible exposure of learners and teachers to COVID-19. 2. In this light, DepEd issues this enclosed policy guidelines providing schools various options for implementing a modified regular enrollment process that adheres to the guidelines set by the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases IATFEID, the Office of the President, and the Department of Health, DOH. 3. These modified enrollment guidelines, anchored on DepEd Order, DO. Number 03, Series of 2018, Basic Education Enrollment Policy, shall guide parents, legal guardians, and teachers in the enrollment of learners for SY 2020 to 2021. This policy provides a range of options to facilitate the enrollment of learners for all public schools in basic education and alternative learning system programs nationwide. 4. These guidelines shall govern only the SY 2020 to 2021 enrollment. The Order No. 03, S. 2018 remains in effect, but its provisions inconsistent with these guidelines are suspended for SY 2020 to 2021. 5. For more information, please contact the Education Management and Information Systems Division Planning Service, Department of Education Central Office through email at ps.ms@gov.ph. 6. Immediate dissemination of and strict compliance with this order are directed. Signed by the DepEd Secretary, Leonor Magdalis Briones. Enclosure to DepEd Order No. 8, Series of 2020 Guidelines on Enrollment for School Year 2020 to 2021 in the context of the public health emergency due to COVID-19. I. Rationale. The coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, pandemic has engendered massive shifts in the functioning of governments and societies around the world. While much remains unknown about COVID-19, it is clear that the virus is highly contagious, and can be lethal to certain vulnerable groups. As such, governments must manage its spread to prevent it from overwhelming national public health systems. Chief among these management strategies is the implementation of physical distancing and community quarantine measures, which present a significant challenge for the basic education sector given its reliance on the traditional mode requiring face-to-face interaction between learners and their teachers. But while the current public health emergency suspends the conduct of business as usual, DepEd remains committed to realizing the constitutional right to education by ensuring that learning opportunities shall continue to be provided in school year SY 2020 to 2021. In its Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan BELCP titled Learning Opportunities Shall Be Available, the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan in the time of COVID-19, DepEd offers multiple learning delivery modalities such as blended learning, distance learning, and homeschooling, either on top or in place of the face-to-face learning modality. Still, for learners to be able to formally avail of the learning opportunities, their enrollment is essential. DAPED can also utilize the enrollment process to generate learner and household information and data critical for designing the learning delivery strategies and approaches, and for planning, resource allocation, and policy formulation. However, the enrollment and data collection process must take into consideration the health and safety of its personnel and learners. In this light, DAPED issues this policy providing schools and community learning centers, CLCs, various options for implementing a modified enrollment process that adheres to the guidelines and standards set by the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases IATF, the Office of the President, and the Department of Health, and the direction of the BELCP2. Policy Statement. The Department of Education adopts these modified enrollment guidelines to guide parents, legal guardians, school heads, and teachers in the enrollment of learners for SY 2020 to 2021. This policy provides a range of options relating to the enrollment of learners for all public schools and basic education and alternative learning system programs nationwide. All learners who elect to enroll in public schools nationwide must be accepted and enrolled upon compliance with DAPED Order, D.O. No. 3, Series 2018 or the Basic Education Enrollment Policy, as modified by these guidelines for SY 2020-2021. These guidelines seek to ensure continued access to learning opportunities through the conduct of an enrollment process that is efficient and in line with minimum health and safety standards. The learner survey shall provide the necessary information to inform planning, resource allocation, policy formulation, and intervention development for improved service delivery throughout the public health emergency. 3. Scope. These guidelines shall provide guidance to school heads, teachers, and parents or guardians regarding the new enrollment process for SY 2020 to 2021 in light of stringent physical distancing measures required to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The procedures and policies set forth under these guidelines shall be adopted by all public schools and basic education and personnel implementing alternative learning system, ALS, programs. State universities and colleges, SUCs, offering basic education and private schools and basic education are encouraged to adapt this policy to their specific contexts. These guidelines shall apply only for SY 2020 to 2021. DAPED Order No. 3, Series 2018 remains in effect, but its provisions inconsistent with these guidelines are suspended for SY 2020 to 2021. 4. Definition of terms. For the purpose of this policy, the following terms are defined and understood as follows. A. ALS Form 2, Enrollment Form, a basic information sheet of individuals who signified interest to enroll in ALS program. B. Polycarl learner, a learner who went back to school and resumed study after year or years of dropping out or discontinuing study. C. Enrollment Focal Person, EFP, teachers without advisory class designated or appointed by the school head responsible for accommodating kindergarten, transferee, and Polycarl enrollees. D. Enrollment Booth or Kiosk, a dedicated place or space for enrollment within the school and barangay. It need not to be manned by school personnel for as long as necessary information materials and LESFs are readily available to the public. This will strictly be set up upon exhausting all means to remotely reach parents, guardians and their learners for the enrollment. E. Learner Enrollment and Survey Form, LESF, a tool that will be used to register learners for the school year and gather information on household capacity to facilitate the administration of various learning modes, that is, available devices, possible facilitators, etc. F. Previous advisor. Class advisors of learners during SY 2019 to 2020 who will facilitate the remote enrollment for SY 2020 to 2021. G. Remote enrollment, a process of registering learners conducted without face-to-face interaction. V. Enrollment procedures. In keeping with strict physical distancing measures, enrollment for SY 2020 to 2021 shall primarily be administered remotely. Physical enrollment in schools or other similar activities shall be highly discouraged, even in low-risk areas. The first 2 weeks shall completely be remote enrollment, where there will absolutely be no face-to-face. SDOs in schools shall exhaust all possible means to conduct remote enrollment. Unless otherwise necessary, any form of physical submission of enrollment data shall only be done on the third week of the enrollment period, which shall be done in coordination with local government units, LGUs. Implementing remote enrollment shall take into consideration the resource inequalities and differing circumstances that exist among learners and teachers. The implementation of a modified enrollment procedure this school year shall primarily be facilitated by previous advisors, who will collect and enter the enrollment and survey data into the end-of-school-year learner information system, except for kindergarten, transferees and bilateral enrollees. Thus, parents and/or enrollees shall submit learner and survey forms to their previous class advisors. In addition, new data shall be collected this school year to capture information that will be relevant in assessing the capacity of the basic education system, and the appropriate targeting of learners, for the continuing delivery of learning in the context of constraints and opportunities presented by the physical distancing measures. A. Instruction to parents or guardians and enrollees. 1. For grades 1 to 12 learners. Parents of incoming grades 1 to 12 learners will be contacted by the previous advisors for remote enrollment. However, parents or guardians may also reach out to their child's advisor for enrollment through the contact numbers published by the school. Making physical appearance in school for enrollment purposes shall be the last option for parents or guardians and their learners. Such appearances shall be guided by the minimum health and safety protocols in the locality, and properly coordinated as to date and time, and with LGU officials up to the barangay level. 2. For incoming kindergarten enrollees. Parents of incoming kindergarten learners shall communicate their intent to enroll their children via digital and/or physical enrollment platforms established by schools. 3. For transferees. Learners planning to transfer from one school, the originating school, to another, the receiving school, shall directly contact the receiving school through its published enrollment contact details. 4. For bilateral enrollees. All bilateral enrollees shall directly contact preferred schools. Receiving schools shall register enrollees' enrollment and survey data. 5. For ALS enrollees. ALS enrollees may communicate their intent to enroll via digital and/or physical enrollment platforms established by schools and barangays with community learning centers, CLCs. The form to be used is ALS Form 2, Annex B, based on DEPAD Order Number 58, Series 2017. This will be made available in digital and physical format. B. Protocol for Modified General Enrollment. This section guides teachers and school administrators in determining how to implement modified general enrollment considering health risk in their locality. This section identifies 3 major stages in this process: pre-data collection, and data retrieval, and provides procedures for each. 1. Pre-data collection. A. Designate teachers to facilitate enrollment. Class advisors shall be assigned to facilitate the remote enrollment of learners in their advisory class from the previous school year, that is SY 2019 to 2020. This assumes that schools have conducted early registration in accordance with the provisions of Section VA of DEPAD Order No. 03, Series 2018, where data gathered, for example, learners' contact information, can be utilized. B. Appoint enrollment focal person. Teachers without advisory classes shall be appointed as enrollment focal persons, EFPs. Schools must ensure that each grade level has an appointed EFP to accommodate kindergarten, transferees and bilateral enrollees. ALS teachers shall act as EFPs in order to accommodate ALS enrollees. EFPs' contact information shall be publicly posted to be easily accessed by prospective enrollees. C. Disseminate information on enrollment procedures and learner enrollment and survey forms, LESF, Annex A. DAPED shall disseminate information on the enrollment procedures to the public through print, social media, radio and television. Specifically, schools shall publish the contact number of schools and/or designated teachers for queries and enrollment procedures. SDOs in schools shall make learner enrollment and survey forms, LESFs, Annex A, available either in digital or print format, whichever is safest to access. Digital format shall also be made accessible downloadable from the websites of the Central Office, CO, regional offices, ROs, school division offices, SDOs, and schools. It shall also be made available in the Learner Information System, LIS, homepage. ROs and SDOs shall also establish hotlines in line with Operation Bullock Esquela to disseminate information and respond to queries on enrollment procedures. D. Defer deadlines for submission of documentary requirements. In recognition of the difficulties presented by the current public health emergency and the guidelines set by the IATF, deadlines for the submission of documentary requirements required under Section VA of DAPED Order No. 3, Series 2018 shall be deferred to December 2020. This shall apply in both public and private schools. Only schools and their personnel shall coordinate the transmission of learners' records, whether internally, for example, between a learner's previous and incoming class advisors, or externally, that is, between schools. As such, schools shall not compel learners and their parents, guardians to take responsibility for transmission of school records. E. Encourage stakeholder participation. Active participation of stakeholders is crucial to the success of the enrollment process. DAPED shall exhaust available means to engage stakeholders from information dissemination to the actual conduct of the enrollment. Parents shall be encouraged to proactively communicate with previous teachers of their child during the enrollment period, except for incoming kindergarten, transferees, Balakaral and ALS enrollees. 2. Data collection. Collection of learner enrollment and survey form or LESF shall adopt various means to ensure safety of all involved parties such as phone call, SMS messaging, and online submission. Parents, guardians shall only use printed LESFs as a last resort for enrolling their child in school. A. Through class advisors. Class advisors shall contact each learner in their advisory class from Site 2019 to 2020 using the contact information found in the SF1 and data obtained from early registration. Contact shall as much as possible be done remotely, with priority given to phone calls, short message service, SMS, and social media, for example, Facebook Messenger, whichever is mutually convenient for both parties. B. Through the initiative of parents, guardians. Schools shall provide specific instructions on how parents, guardians of prospective enrollees make contact appointed EFPs. Once contacted by the parents, guardians of prospective enrollees, appointed EFPs shall collect the necessary data stipulated in these guidelines. EFPs shall accommodate inquiries and facilitate data collection as remotely as possible, whether via phone call, short message service, SMS, and social media, for example, Facebook Messenger, whichever is mutually convenient to both parties. In the event that parents, guardians are not able to submit enrollment data through the established remote platforms, schools, in close coordination with LGUs, shall set up physical platforms, that is kiosk, booth, to collect LESFs. This shall be done in strict compliance with the minimum health and safety standards. Instructions to submit through these physical platforms shall be announced through multimedia platforms, that is radio, TV, social media. Teachers may encode their LESF data upon collection in the provided template while waiting for their respective LIS encoding schedules. The digital format of the enrollment form and the encoding template can be accessed through the LIS. For teachers without laptops and internet connectivity, any physical reporting to schools to encode LESF data shall strictly adhere to the minimum health and safety standards. If conditions will not allow for physical reporting in school, filled out hard copies of the LESF will be compiled until the LIS opens for encoding. Teachers with existing medical conditions shall be provided with assistance during data collection. LIS encoding. A. For existing learners. Following the same process in updating the enrollment status of learners at the end of school year, as updating, the enrollment status of learners in a school's registry shall be updated based on their SF9, Learner Progress Report Card. For this purpose, the previous class advisor shall encode collected learner data from the LESF and the LIS. B. For incoming kindergarten, transferees, Balakaral, and ALS learners. For incoming kindergarten, transferees, Balakaral, and ALS learners, the designated EFP shall encode collected learner data from the LESF in the provided template. This template shall be forwarded by schools to the Planning and Research Unit at the SDO for consolidation. LIS encoding may be scheduled once the system experiences congestion. Encoding schedules and instructions shall be posted on the LIS. School heads shall ensure that all teachers have the means and support to encode LESF data. School heads shall also extend encoding assistance to teachers who have existing medical conditions and are not permitted to leave their homes. Public and private schools shall complete their encoding of LESF data in the LISEOSY module no later than July 07th 2020. 3. Data retrieval. The Central Office, CO, shall retrieve new data pertaining to the LESF from the LIS and process the results. ROs and SDOs shall also be given access to the new data and the processed results. C. Functions and responsibilities. The table below shows the functions and responsibilities of each governance level during the key stages of the enrollment process. Governance level. Pre-data collection. Data collection. Data retrieval. Central Office. Policy and planning. Issue guidelines on enrollment procedures, data and resource management. Design the LESF and offline encoding for data collection. Modify LIS to accommodate new data requirements. Communication. Provide information materials on the modified enrollment procedures. Disseminate information on the enrollment. Monitoring. Monitor data encoding in the system. Support and assistance. Provide necessary support and assistance to the field. Analysis and evaluation. Retrieve necessary data from the LIS, process results from the LESF, assess how these results may inform related policies and programs. Regional Office policy and planning. Issue regional policy document echoing national policy as necessary. Communication. Disseminate information on the enrollment. Conduct orientation on the modified enrollment procedures. Monitoring. Monitor data collection and encoding in the system. Support and assistance. Provide support and assistance to SDOs. Analysis and evaluation. Access summary of results from the LESF. Assess the implications of results on learning delivery. Schools Division Office. Support and assistance. Print enrollment form and Excel template for data collection. Coordination and linkages. Coordinate with the LGU on the conduct of modified enrollment. Communication. Disseminate information on the enrollment. Conduct orientation on the modified enrollment procedures. Monitoring. Monitor data collection and encoding in the system. Support and assistance. Provide support and assistance to schools. Analysis and evaluation. Access summary of results from the LESF. Assess the implications of results on learning delivery. School. Support and assistance. Ensure that all teachers have facility and assistance in data collection and LIS encodings. Coordination and linkages. Coordinate with the LGU on the conduct of modified enrollment. Communication. Disseminate information on the enrollment, especially to parents, guardians. Monitoring. Monitor data collection and encoding in the system. Technical support. Provide support to teachers during data collection and encoding. Analysis and evaluation. Assess summary of results from the LESF. Assess how these results may affect the learning delivery. VI. Data privacy. 1. Schools shall properly dispose of accomplished printed enrollment and learner survey forms after these are encoded in the LIS. 2. The Data Protection Officer shall ensure the department's compliance with the requirements of the Data Privacy Act during the enrollment process. He or she may issue further guidelines as necessary. 3. Regional directors, schools division superintendents, and school heads shall act as data compliance officers at their respective levels of governance and ensure the protection of collected personal information. They may use the results of the survey to plan and develop interventions for their respective jurisdictions consistent with the requirements of the Data Privacy Act. 4. The Planning Service, PS, shall process the results of the survey for policy and program development purposes consistent with the requirements of the Data Privacy Act. 7. Monitoring and evaluation. The Planning Service through the Educational Management Information System Division, EMISD, and the School Effectiveness Division, SED, BHROD, the Policy, Planning, and Research Division, PPRD, Quality Assurance Division, QAD, of the regional offices, and the School Governance Operations Divisions, SGOD, of schools division offices shall conduct monitoring, provide technical assistance, and gather issues, best practices, and feedback, provided that these activities shall be done remotely. 8. Effectivity. These guidelines shall govern only the site 2020 to 2021 enrollment. DAPED Order No. 03, Series of 2018 remains in effect but its provisions inconsistent with these guidelines are suspended for site 2020 to 2021. 9. References. DAPED Order No. 03, Series of 2018, Basic Education Enrollment Policy. DAPED Order No. 32, Series of 2018, Policy Guidelines on the Collection of Data, Information Requirements for Beginning of School Year SY 2018 to 2019 in the Learner Information System, LIS, an Enhanced Basic Education Information System, EBEIS. DAPED Order No. 58, Series of 2017, Adoption of New School Forms for Kindergarten, Senior High School, Alternative Learning System, Health and Nutrition, and Standardization of Permanent Records.